Howdy, all you delicious people. I'm here today to review Power Rangers episodes. So we, of course, are covering Mighty Morphin Power Rangers episode from Season 3, Episode 8, A Brush with Danger, that, in all honesty, kind of feels similar to the Dino Thunder episode, Drawn to Danger. As if they kind of like stole that title a little bit, but anyways. So we have Kat, it seems, that is to find out from her mother that she is to possibly be leaving for France. And she's so worried about this, like she's losing sleep over this. When she is sleeping, she's having nightmares. So we go on to have Rita and Zed taking advantage of Kimberly's nightmares and are to make the monster that is in Kimberly's dream come true. And so this monster, of course, is to be a monster called Artismo. And we have this monster that goes on and kind of like sucks out all the color, and I was like, wow, that actually is like a really cool idea. It's a goofy idea, but still, I thought it was really fun. And I like the fact whenever they would go on to attack this monster, they would just like beat the color out of him, which is kind of funny. And also, I was just kind of won over by this story. It was actually pretty decent. So we then go into the 27th episode, another brick in the wall. And so we come to find that Kat is to have this construction site where she's building these homes for the homeless. We have a bunch of people that are all pitching in. And it seems that both Rita and Zed also want to pitch in from this kind of stuff that is around this construction site, conduct or create a monster within this environment, which just so happens to have Rita by accident create a brick monster, a brick wall monster, which I was like, yeah, like this is cool. And he just goes on and kind of just chucks bricks at the Rangers by kind of blasting them at them and kind of flinging them. He also ends up turning the Rangers into bricks in this episode, which I thought was kind of funny. So we have Kat that desperately needs to go on and figure out how to unbrick Rangers. And so the episode was really fun. Really enjoyed how it all turned out. So with that said, what happens in the Power Rangers in Space episode number 25? We go on to, of course, if the Black Ranger Mighty Morphin logo is any telling of what is to happen in the In Space episode, we have Johnny Young Bosch come back as Atom. So we have Carlos, through a fight sequence, is to accidentally hurt one of his other Rangers. And it seems that Carlos cannot go on and shake that whole thing. And so we end up having Atom, who comes back to try and train Carlos into possibly being in a better shape, or just possibly to be a bit more skilled, so that way Carlos, it seems, won't make that mistake again. And so we have Carlos, who seems to decide that he wants to quit the Rangers, that like the pressure of it all is just far too much. And when Carlos and Atom are faced again with a threat, we have Carlos possibly realizing what a mistake he had made. So with that said, I think it's about that time to just go into that double 5 time territory, because I think it's about that time yet again to, of course, go into spoiler time. Spoiler time, it's about that time again to spoil this episodes. So, we, for the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers episode 8, A Brush with Danger, kind of like the Drawn to Danger Dino Thunder episode, if I didn't state that already. So, we, at the very beginning of this, have Kimberly making her way to the juice bar, and we come to find out that there is some artist that is taking his painting to donate it to some like benefit uh thing going on, because there's always some kind of charity thing that they're trying to do in every one of these episodes. So we have Kimberly that is to go on and tell both Aisha and Tommy that it seems that she has some good news and she has some bad news. And Aisha's like, well, I always like good news first. So we have Kimberly that breaks it to Tommy and Aisha that it seems that her mom had gone on to find this French artist and they had fallen in love. And so it's like, oh wow, well that's great. And what's the bad news? Kimberly's like, well, it seems that this artist guy is to want to move back to France. And now I have to kind of decide what I'm going to do. Like, am I going to quit being a Power Ranger? Am I going to go to France? Like, could I move in with other family members or hopefully another friend of mine? Which is, all honesty, quite a bit like how at some point Lana's story on Smallville played out, where Lana on the Superman show Smallville, she of course had her aunt kind of be married off to this guy, and so Lana's like, well, hey, where can I live? Where am I gonna go? Like, am I gonna have to leave Smallville? And then coinkadinkly, we had Chloe, who's like, well, how about you just move in with me? And then slowly but surely, Lana is just like, yeah, living with Chloe isn't all it's cracked up to be, and so on and so forth. But anyways, so we have Kimberly that of course was so distracted with this whole worry that when Aisha and Tommy were to kind of like meet up with Kimberly, like she was just so and Tommy's like, well, hey, like it just seemed like you weren't even there. So we have Aisha that's like, well, hey, how about we go to a park tomorrow and we're gonna kind of really walk this through and figure this whole out. So, but Kimberly goes on and calls Aisha and she's just so worried. So, like so much so that she can't sleep. So, when Kimberly finally does go to sleep and she dreams, all of a sudden she is to make her way to this table where we have the French artist going on and saying that yes, like Kimberly's mom, like it's going to be great at France and this and that, and it's going to be wonderful. And we all of a sudden have Kimberly that's like, no, like I'm not going, like you can't make me. And then all of a sudden, the French artist ends up turning into Artismol, and we then have Kimberly that's like, oh my god, she's just kind of touching her hair and stuff like that. And then all of a sudden we have Kimberly turn around to see her ranger form going on and kind of being in this cage and waving goodbye to Kimberly. And so Kimberly just kind of runs off and she's just be mortified by this dream. So we have at the Moon Palace, we go on to have Finster that is talking to both Lord Zed and Rita. And speaking of dreams, we all of a sudden have Finster that comes up with this dream device. He doesn't call it that, but I'm calling it that. So Finster ends up explaining that this device is to go on and take a person's dream and make it a reality. So, and also to like kind of see people's dreams, and the dream of which that they had seen on this device is actually Kimberly's dream of this whole nightmare. So they're like, okay, like we're gonna have to go on and go even further to then scan Kimberly with this dream device and pull this monster from her dream and hopefully make it real. So they send they send Rito and the Tangas out to get to Kimberly. And so we have the Rangers that are at this park, and Kimberly is stating that she hadn't gotten really much sleep. And so we all of a sudden have the Rangers who realize that they are with Rito and Tangas. So they go into their ninja forms, their ninja suits, and start fighting the Tangas and Rito. And what happens is that Kimberly ends up getting held to a tree. Rito scans Kimberly, and then they vanish. So we have Kimberly that is like, oh, I think I blacked out at some point. Like, I didn't even understand how I even got free. And so, like, well, are you alright? Are you okay? And she's like, yeah, I'm fine. So we have the Rangers powered down, and so like, okay, all right, like, well, like, we don't know what that meant, but maybe it'll mean something more later. So we have Bulk and Skull who are at this benefit, and it seems that both of them had fallen asleep while trying to secure all of these paintings. All of a sudden we have one missing painting, and we all of a sudden have Bulk and Skull who are realizing, oh my god, like, we need to go on and we need to find this painting. So we all of a sudden have Bulk and Skull at Angel Grove High School talking to Billy and Adam, and Billy and Adam are like, well, hey, what are you guys doing? And Bulk is to say it's top secret, and we have Skull who's like, oh, you mean the secret of us having this missing painting? And Bulk is like, seriously? So now the secret's out, they're missing this painting, and they know that Stone is gonna get their hide for this. So we have Kimberly, who is to realize that her communicator is missing, and so she needs to go out and look for it. So we have the rest of the Rangers that are at the command center, and we have the Rangers find out that the benefit missing painting was, of course, of the Artismol, and that also they go on to explain that the Artismol goes on and is to be sucking the color out of everything. They're kind of showcasing this on the viewing globe, and so they go on and explain Artismol's power, and so we then go out to have the Rangers who are trying to fight off Artismol. So we have the Rangers that are starting to fight Artismol, and they realize that they can't get any like punches or kicks into this monster. They're like, okay, this seems to be unusual. So They end up calling for extra help, and they call Ninjor. Ninjor is like, "Yes, I will be there. I'll be there, Rangers." Goofy Ninjor. So, dang, he didn't go on. He didn't float in the cloud again. Man, he didn't do the cloud thing, the sweet cloud thing that I always love about him. So, we all of a sudden have the Artismo that goes on to train the Rangers of their power. So all of a sudden, we find our Power Rangers saturated, and they have loss of their power, and so they're just kind of in pain, just going like this, as they're all now gray and white. Hence, when you go on and you adjust the saturation on a picture, you would go on and find out that it just becomes kind of black and white. So, we have Kimberly that is looking for her communicator, and she's like, well, I need to go and retrace my steps. So Kimberly goes to the park and realizes that her watch is down on the ground as it is going off. So Kimberly's like, oh, great. So, funny thing of it is, you would think that probably with all these Rangers, probably a number of their watches would all at some point get broken. And we, of course, had Jason go on and state, Austin St. John, when he would go and realize, like, the massive budget of the Turbo movie compared to, like, the normal show, he, of course, would have his watch in certain episodes, like, he would have to, like, hold on to the watch as he's talking in the communicator because the watch would be broken. So he's like, man, like, what a budget you guys have on this movie. Like, spare no expense. But for the show, it's like you have so many props that are broken. There's so many times where a lot of people can see little goofy details to just be like, wait a minute, like, you can go on and you can see, like, Goldar's neck is just this black cloth. What the heck is that? Or you can go on and just kind of complain about all the other goofy things that you've ended up seeing throughout the show. Or like, well, hey, like, wait a minute, they obviously recycle these characters. Like, man, are they really getting a mile out of one thing? So, but with that said, moving on. So, we go on to have Kimberly, that is to get to her communicator. So, Kimberly then goes on to realize that she needs to go on and morph, and so on and so forth. So, Kimberly goes on to fight Artismo alone, as the Rangers are just kind of in their pain and like, yeah. So, we have Kimberly taking on Artismo, and it seems that it's very close for the Artismo to want to go on and wipe out the Pink Ranger. But it seems that Kimberly is to go on and figure out a way to whip out her blaster and fire upon Artismo, and that all of a sudden gets the Power Rangers back their powers. And so we, of course, have Rita and Zed are just like, well, hey, man, like we know where this is going. So they end up making their monster grow, and so we have the Ninja Megazord that ends up being called, and so Ninja also goes into expansion mode, but then he ends up going also into battle mode or warrior mode, whichever way of which that they would go on and state this, because I don't know how many times I would think that it's like warrior mode or battle mode, and I would always get those confused because it would kind of, per seasons, kind of switch up the word, the verbiage. So, we have, of course, Ninjor kind of doing this weird kind of, like, almost Hadouken, like, weird, like laser baseball attack thing. And we go on to have the Double Fists of Doom coming in from the Ninja Megazord. And so that ends up going on to wipe out Artismol, which I was like, man, I wish that this monster could have really had more mileage. We really could have played around with how many things that it just kind of wiped the color out of. Like, you could have gone on and had, like, Angel Grove, that, like, the whole episode would have, like, or a good chunk of the episode should have been done in, like, black and white. Like, it was, like, Pleasantville or something. Man, would that be sweet. I would love a retro Power Rangers episode beyond the one episode that we got with Atom, where he goes on to fight all those supernatural monsters, like the werewolf and the vampire, and so on and so forth. Like, that was pretty awesome, but like here would have been an amazing opportunity to give us like a retro Power Rangers episode, but they didn't go with it. They kind of half baked it, but anyways. So we end up having Bulk and Skull find out that Kimberly's parents were to have gone on and returned the painting, as we, of course, had the French artist go on and state that he was to want to protect the painting, and so that's why he took it for himself. So we have Kimberly go on and talk to her mother and just kind of state her worries, because Kimberly did go on to the command center and talk to Alpha 5 and Zordon, like, about her issues, and Zordon's like, well, hey, like, your mother is kind of looking out for your best interest, and I'm sure that whatever you and your mother can kind of come up with, like, will be, like, best for you and your family. And like, we go on and have Alpha that's like, oh my god, I love these tender moments. That's the one scene that I kind of forgot about. But so Kimberly talks to her mother and is to state that she is, like, so worried about, like, leaving school and having to make new friends and going off to France. And so Kimberly's mother, it's like, well, yeah, I completely understand that. And so Aisha just comes in with her folks and is to state, it's like, well, hey, Kimberly, like, I had gone on and talked with my parents, and we would like you to just kind of live with us for the rest of this school year. Because, of course, Kimberly's like, well, yeah, like, that sounds great. And then after this school year is up, maybe I can go on and kind of leave for France after that. So that seems to be where we kind of end this episode. And, like, on a technical high note. But also realizing at some point that Kat is going to leave the show. Kimberly is going to leave the show. Kat is also going to leave the show at some point, but that'll be seasons down the road. Once we actually get to the in space part, we get into Turbo, then yeah, at some point Kat is going to leave, as well as Atom and Tanya. So we go into the next episode, episode 27, which of course is another brick in the wall. So Kat is to go to the youth center, and she is to bring this model to both Tommy and Atom, and she's to go on and state that she's kind of working on this for the humanitarian housing project, and she, of course, is to be having this as a model for a real construction site to build homes for the homeless. And Tommy and Adam are like, well, hey, how can I help? So they're like, oh yeah, like I think we can kind of use you guys for this project. And so I'm like, wait a minute, like, we have so many Rangers with so many like random stuff that they're like seemingly like for only one episode a part of, and then you completely forget that like Kat is going on and having all of this knowledge or doing all these things. And that's the one thing that I think is kind of so goofy about episodes, how there's a lot of stuff that's just kind of bottled in one episode and you don't see again through the next thing. Like, I don't know how many times the Rangers would join all of these clubs and all these things, but you never see them do that past this episode. And, like, they just don't come back to it. The only thing that eventually, at some point, when Power Rangers legitimately get jobs, then they focus on that for every episode. But yeah, in the previous like Power Rangers episodes, there were so many charity things that they're doing. Like, man, it was like all over the place. How do they have time to do all these activities as well as also be Power Rangers when, like, in the episode of Dino Thunder, where Ethan is going on and saying, man, like, you know what, Dr. O, it's like I love being a Power Ranger, but it really is to be like challenging to get our homework done. And I'm like, yeah, if you realize that the Power Rangers don't even have time to do their homework, how do they have time to do fighting of monster and all this charity work and all these kind of side jobs and all these side things? How do they have the frickin' time? Anyways, so let's get into the episodes. So we have Rita, who is sick of Kat, and she, of course, is to be like, oh, goody two shoes, kind of like she went on and was talking smack to Tommy from before, in the Rita's Pita episode, where she goes on and like, oh, Tommy, he's such a goody good, he's such a goody two shoes, blah, blah, blah. Kind of the same kind of crap, for every episode. Rita always has a complaint about one singular ranger. So, Rita is sick of Kat, and Kat is going on and building these homeless homes for all of these homeless people. And so, we go on to have, like, both Zed and Golar talking some smack. And so, Rita's like, well, okay then, how about me and Rito will kind of work together and try to go up against these Rangers. And so it's like, okay, like, see how that works out. So Kat goes on to now be at this construction site, and she's going on and assigning jobs to a bunch of people. She's going on like, okay, Tommy and Adam, you go here. Hey, Billy and Aisha, you go here. So on, so forth. So we have Rito and Babu and Squat that are all just kind of watching on, kind of lurking in the shadows, just kind of seeing what's really going on here. And we then go into this kind of massive building montage where it just kind of showcases all the Rangers are kind of doing kind of random tasks. Like at one point we see Billy, who's kind of dunking this bucket to kind of hand to somebody, and we go on to see, like, in the background, like Bulk and Skull are just like, God, this is so boring. And like we have Bulk, who's kind of in this pool, just kind of cooling off. So we start to see all this pitching in and all these tasks being done. So we come to find that Bulk and Skull are to see Rito and the Tangas, and so we have, of course, Bulk and Skull that end up kind of running off. So the Rangers then morph into their ninja costumes to try and take down Rito and the Tangas. And we have Lord Zed and we have Rita, who of course are watching on, and so oh no. What happens is the Rangers all leave after like Caddis estate like okay like I'm gonna go on and kind of do little tweaks, but you guys can just go on and leave for the day. And so we have Cat that just kind of sticks around, and that's of course when Rito and the Tangas attack. And so we have Cat who goes into her ninja costume and tries to fight off Tangas and Rito, but she gets outnumbered. So Cat goes on and calls for reinforcements. And so Cat calls Zordon. Zordon calls the Rangers. I'm like, why doesn't Cat just go on and just call the Rangers directly? But that's just me. So the Rangers go on to morph into their ninja suits and make their way to where Cat is. So we have Rita that goes on to blast with her staff to try and make Cat evil again, and instead she ends up making an evil brick wall. And so, which of course is called Brick Bully. So we have Zed that goes on and states like, well, hey, like, you obviously had made a mistake here and you think that this Brick Bully is going to bail you out of this mistake. And so we all of a sudden have this brick wall that is like, okay, like, let's see what I have in store for you guys. So we have Brick Bully that is to all of a sudden have bricks come flying from behind him, and all the Rangers are starting to get hit with all these things. So we all of a sudden have the Brick Bully that goes on to change black and yellow into these bricks. And so then he goes on and continues to make all the other Rangers bricks, with the exclusion of both Cat and Billy. We go on to have both Cat and Billy that grab all these bricks and make their way back to the command center. So we have them need to go on and figure out how exactly they can go on and beat this monster. And so they're like, well, we have to figure out a way to unbrick our Rangers. And so we have Billy that is coming up with the idea of like, well, like, we need to come up with like erosion, which is building decay. And Kat is like, well, yeah, I read about that in one of my kind of construction building classes. And so Kat is to go on and rattle off that there are several different ways to decay a brick. And she goes on and thinks it's like, well, like maybe we can make some kind of pollution casing that is to go on and turn our Rangers back to normal. And so we go on and see that in the viewing globe that Brick Bully is going on and attacking Angel Grove. So Billy's like, well, Cat, like, you go on and you figure out a way to unbrick the Rangers, and I'm going to go and face off against Brick Bully. So we go on to have Billy go off to realize that Brick Bully's eating a bunch of building supplies. He's eating a bunch of stuff all around this site. And so Billy's also realizing that the Brick Bully's getting stronger, or Brick Bully is getting stronger from that. And so Billy is realizing that he should go on and trying to kind of push Brick Bully away from this site, so that way we can, of course, have Brick Bully starting to weaken the further and further he goes without these products. So we have, of course, Stone, who is very upset with Bulk and Skull because they could not have gone on and secure this construction site. So we have Stone that is to tell Bulk and Skull, it's like, well, hey, you guys need to go on and do whatever you need to do to get these construction sites, or this construction site, back to where it was, or else. So we go on to have both Bulk and Skull, who end up finding the missing wall, but it is kind of all over the Blue Ranger. And so we all of a sudden have Bulk and Skull, who are really trying to look into the fight between these two. It's like, yeah, like, you get him, Blue Ranger. And all of a sudden Rito is to kind of wedge into the two of Bulk and Skull talking, as we, of course, have Bulk and Skull who are saying, like, well, yeah, like, how did that monster come to be? And Rito says, it's like, well, my sister Rita went on and she made this monster. Both Bulk and Skull all of a sudden look at Rito and they run off scared. And Rito is to kind of like stiff himself. He's like, all right. So we now have Billy that is starting to fight the Brick Bully, and the Brick Bully is starting to get gassed. And so Rita is realizing that Billy had tricked the Brick Bully, and so she's like, well, I'm going to go on and just make my monster grow. So the monster, of course, is now huge, and we have Billy that's just like, ha, like, do you think that we can go on, come to some kind of agreement, some kind of arrangement? Anyways, so Billy decides that he's going to go on individually with his blue Shogun Zord, because we have the Shogun Zords now. We have Billy that is to go on and face off against Brick Bully alone. And this is the first time ever where a Shogun Zord individually, not the whole Megazord thing, is to try and take down a monster. And he ends up accomplishing it. He ends up doing it. It's the only time in the show that this ever happens. So that's pretty sweet, right? To have that kind of thing on your stats or whatever goofy thing, that at some point maybe someone is going to go on and state somewhere like, hey, David Yost, did you realize that you were the only Shogun Zord that went on solo and defeated a monster? Yeah, how good does that feel? So we have Billy that goes on in his Shogun Megazord to use his staff weapon, that it didn't really seem like there was an actual name for this, because I just looked it up also, and it just said staff weapon. So I'm like, okay, how uncreative is that? You have a name for a billion other things, but the one staff weapon is just called staff weapon. Because I googled it, I looked it up, no name. But then I would have to write off all these other Astro, Spiral, whatever, goofy modes, whatever things. But just staff weapon for that. Okay, alright. God, I hate having sometimes to look stuff up, because I'm like, oh, what's the name of this motorcycle? Oh, it's just a motorcycle. Great. I wasted all that time to crucially try to look this thing up, and it doesn't have a name. Great. So, we have Billy that after wiping out this monster, he goes back to the command center to find out that they have come up with some machine that can simulate pollution, and that goes on to bring all the Rangers back. So, and we had Billy and Kat crossing their fingers. So, the Rangers end up coming back. So, we go and have at the Moon Palace, we of course have Rita again with her failure, is to of course go on and try to blame it on Rito, but then also is to just go on and just be like wah 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 to all the other people and like state like how horrible they are. And so we go on to of course have Rita, who's stated it's like, well, with all the destruction that we did, they're just gonna rebuild anyways. So Rita is to go off in a huff, and Goldar is stated like, man, was that ugly. So we then go on to, after Kat has gone on to build this whole construction site and kind of perfected it, we have the humanitarian housing project that is to go on and give Kat this outstanding achievement award. And we go and have both Tommy and Billy who are just kind of praising Kat. It's like, well, yeah, like, I can really understand with all this hard work that you put into this, how you're going on and you're getting this outstanding achievement award. So Stone, of course, is all of a sudden, it's like, well, hey, like, the mayor is giving this award, but where exactly is the mayor? We all of a sudden have Bulk and Skull who are grabbing this lady, and it's like, hey, she has this gold shovel. So Stone is to run off to Bulk and Skull, but like, hey, what are you guys doing? And both Bulk and Skull are sitting like, well, yeah, this girl's like lurking around, and you wanted us to keep this area secure. And like, this woman was just stating that she's the mayor. Like, do you believe that? And Stone is like, well, I do, because she is the mayor. And they're like, oh crap. So we have Stone who grabs Bulk and Skull, and is stated, it's like, well, hey, you guys are going to go on for the next 5 years and clean the mayor's car. And then after that, you're going to clean my car. And then after that, you're going to clean all the town's cars. And this and that. So we have the mayor that goes on to give Kat this gold shovel. It's like, here you go. Here's your achievement award, a gold shovel. Whoop-de-doo. Hopefully you're going to go on and just, like, kind of plant this shovel somewhere, right? But no. She just goes on to just hold on to do it. And it's like, yay, whoop-de-doo. So we then go on, of course, into the Power Rangers in Space episode 25, Always a Chance. So I'm kind of wondering if they kind of slipped that word always in to Always a Ranger for Operation Overdrive, because there was this other episode called Always a Chance. Maybe it was called Once a Ranger. I don't know. I'll have to kind of relook that up, or not take the time to relook that up, but I probably made that mistake. Anyways, I'm not going to correct it now. It's too late. So we go and have this kind of top secret facility. It's so secret that Power Rangers can easily break into it, because they have all these signs that state it's like Section 4, top secret, and all this, but the Power Rangers can just slip in. So, come to find out, the Rangers are making their way into this facility, where we have the Quantrons that are with Liz Lizard. And so Liz Lizard is to try and consume all of the knowledge of all of these scientists. And so the Rangers are to go on and figure that out. So we have the Rangers that come in and want to fight off this Liz Wizard, and so Liz Wizard is going like, okay, well, I'm going to showcase my power, and so he ends up kind of flinging out his tongue, and is to latch his tongue around Andros's arm, and so when they go on and they try to attack Andros, uh, we end up having Liz Lizard, who is to kind of switch places with Andros. So we go on to, of course, have Liz Wizard go outside, and we have all the Rangers who are starting to use their weapons. We have Andros whipping out his spiral saber. We, of course, have TJ whipping out his Astro Axe. And some of the Rangers are to have their kind of weapons kind of even like mentioned, like the Star Slinger, the Yellow Ranger, and the Satellite Stunner is to be kind of had by the Pink Ranger, but I don't think she states it anywhere. So, as well as Carlos is to have his hex or his lance weapon. My bad. So we go on to have the Liz Wizard that is to grab his tongue onto Cassie, and we have Carlos that is going for this attack using his lance, and we all of a sudden have Liz Wizard that goes on and switch places and accidentally attacks Cassie by mistake. And he's like, oh my god, I attacked my friend. We have Liz Wizard and the Quantrons that just leave. So we have Atom that is very shaken up by him, of course, injuring Cassie to the point that she has this kind of her arm is in a sling. She's going on and playing chess with Alpha 6, and Carlos is like, "Oh my god, like I hurt you," and Cassie's like, "No, it's fine. Like injuries happen, and like this is to kind of be just expected." So we have Carlos that is to go on to find out that Liz Wizard is going on to attack Professor Phenomenus because, of course, Liz Wizard needs to go on and find more knowledge, more information, and so he goes on to find Vulcan Skull with Professor Phenomenus, which, like, I honestly liked Vulcan Skull and Professor Phenomenus. Like, some of the episodes that I saw them in were kind of fun, even though also they were very goofy. But so, like, we had them go on and think that like a watermelon was like an alien egg in one of the episodes. So we go on to have Carlos, who is realizing that he needs to go on and morph into the Black Ranger, but he is hesitating. He's just like, oh my god, my morpher is right here, but I don't want to do this. And so Vulcan Skull and Professor Phenomenus are just really in a real worry here. So we have Carlos who forcibly needs to morph. And so when Carlos is trying to fight off this Liz Wizard, we all of a sudden have Adam that comes in with this flying, amazing kick. And so we start to have both Adam and both Carlos that are trying to fight off Liz Wizard. And Liz Wizard is like, dude, I'm deucing, I'm peacing out. Like, like I'm a little outnumbered here. So we have Carlos that powers down because, like, of course, like Carlos and Adam are to know one another because, of course, Adam was to basically hand off his powers to Carlos, so like they know one another as Power Rangers. And we also had Professor Phenomenus and Vulcan Skull who were to leave when Adam was to come kind of flying in. So like we didn't get any secrets revealed of who the Power Rangers were or anything like that by any number of those guys. So we have Carlos come to this conclusion that he feels that right now he just really needs help. And Adam's like, well, hey, man, like, whatever you need. Like, I am willing to go on and help you. So we have Adam and we have Carlos that are training with Alpha 6. And so we have this kind of like rocky training montage. And so we have Adam that is to train Carlos to kind of like trust his instincts of where Adam is going to strike next. We bizarrely had Adam that goes on, it's like, and it's like, dude, like Carlos is blindfolded. Why are you doing that? Like, I get it's like a funny thing, or it looks cool on TV, but still, like, the guy can't see you doing that. Maybe you can go on and state that maybe he he knew that Adam was doing that whole thing, but either way, it's goofy. But so after this whole training session, and really Adam is to realize that Carlos is still very hesitant about fully committing to all of this training, and so he just kind of runs off. Adam is to realize that he, in his gym bag, has this broken morpher. And so Adam is to, like, say to Alpha 6, it's like, well, hey, like, look, I have this broken morpher. And Alpha 6 is like, well, hey, like, this is a broken morpher. If you go on and use it, like, it'll probably break you. Like, you should not go on and use this. It would be far too dangerous to even try. So we have Carlos that hands in his communicator and his morpher to just be like, you know what, I'm peacing out. We're getting out of here. Like, I just can't take this. So we have the Dark Fortress where Astronema is talking to Liz Wizard, and is stating that it's like, well, you know what, Liz Wizard, you have failed me far too many times, and kind of Cliptor is in the background, just kind of like, right. So we have a Cliptor that is talking to Astronema and stating that, well, like, it seems that the Black Ranger is all by himself, so maybe this would be the perfect time to go on and attack the Black Ranger, because the Black Ranger, of course, had gone on to speak with Adam and told him, it's like, well, hey, man, like, I don't need your training anymore because I quit being a Ranger. So we have the Quantrons and Liz Wizard that appears in front of both Adam and both Carlos. So while they're fighting, while this is going on, we realize that Adam and Carlos are kind of getting clocked here. And so Adam is like, that broken morpher. And so Adam kind of takes the morpher out. He's like, should I use it? Should I not use it? And Alpha 6 is like, no! And we have Adam that's like, it's Morphin time! And he does it. And so of course, I don't have like a legitimate like morpher thing, so that's the one thing that I don't have out of all this stuff because morphers are freaking expensive. Plus, also, I'm sure they're going to be way more expensive now than they ever were, especially the original Mighty Morphin ones. But probably out of all the morphers, I would probably go on and state that the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers ones are probably the coolest looking ones, or probably the Master Morpher is pretty cool from the Super Ninja Steel episode that Tommy was in. Uh, what also are kind of cool morphers? Uh, I would honestly state, even though everyone hates it for some goofy reason, the Mega Force morphers were actually pretty cool. Uh, Not the Super Mega Force ones where you'd have to go on and have all the different keys. That one would be kind of sweet also, but uh, yeah, like the Mega Force kind of morpher where you just kind of go on, just kind of pop the thing in and just kind of, and it has like the Zordon character, whoever he was, because it's been a while since I've seen Megaforce. Like that was the Morpher, and I was like, all right, that's an interesting idea. Even though a lot of people probably don't like Megaforce, it is what it is. I liked that show for some portions of whatever, anyways. So, uh, yeah, I don't know. I don't think I've seen enough of the shows to really have a clear consensus about the Morphers, but just the Mighty Morphins ones were just cool. They're sweet. So yeah. So anyways, uh, back to the show. So we have Adam Morph, and so we go on to have Adam that it seems is doing pretty well and is trying to fight off the Liz Wizard. And we have Carlos that is to almost go on and kind of run away and quit. Then he's like, no, like, I need to go back. And even without power, try and fight off this Liz Wizard. And because, like, Carlos is to realize he can't morph. Like he can't get the morpher. He keeps looking at his arm. He's like, I'm missing something. So it's better to like have it and not need it than not need it and not have it. Anyway. So we have the rest of the Rangers that show up of like, well, hey, do you guys need a hand? And we all of a sudden have Cassie that tosses Carlos his morpher. It's like, well, yeah, I think you're going to be needing this because it seems like you're going to want to go on and want to help out the team. What if Carlos is like, no, I'm leaving again. No, I'm quitting. Don't you guys realize I quit? So we have Carlos that morphs. And so we get to where Liz Wizard is to use his tongue attack on Adam. While Adam is kind of like his powers are starting to wane, like you can start to see like there's sometimes where it just looks like Adam, and then there's sometimes where it just looks like the Ranger, and it's just kind of phasing out, and Adam's like, ow. So we go on to have Liz Wizard, who's to use the same attack again, where he switches places with Adam. And this time around, when Carlos is to attack with his lance, we then get the same move that Tommy does with Jason when they had that whole rivalry spell. And Tommy goes on and is to kind of hit with his leg on Jason's shoulder, and then jumps even higher to go on and attack the the shark monster. I don't remember what it was called. Whatever goofy monster that was for that week. Whatever rivalry spell episode that was. It's I can't keep all of this all together and be like, oh yeah, remember that one episode with that goofy weird shark monster? That was pretty sweet though, right? It was pretty freaking sweet. If anything, through my recent Power Ranger reviews, you could probably go on and find that episode. But either way, it's probably one of the Green Ranger episodes. But anyways, with that said, we have Carlos that is to hop on from Adam's shoulder to then launch even further to attack. This side, it's like, oh, he learned. And isn't that nice? So we go on and have this attack be done, and so Astronema is like, well, hey, satellite lasers, let's go on. And we even have a lot of points in this episode where Astronema is talking to like Elgar and just talking smack, and like Astronema is just telling Elgar that at some point he's going to rule Earth, as she's going to peace out and go somewhere else. So we have the Astro Mega Ship that ends up getting called, of course, and so we have the Astro Saber, or Astro Mega Saber. I'm not quite sure the title of the saber, that comes in and is to go on and cut slice. So we had so much time taking up with like Adam coming back and Carlos' story, that the whole Megazord part just kind of has to kind of be this cheap, quick way of doing things. So when the Rangers come back after going on and beating this really goofy Liz Wizard thing that I can finally stop saying the name of now because it's dead. I'm sorry for how many times I tripped up on that name, but it's easy for me to want to just say that this is a lizard, but it's Liz Wizard. So we have the Rangers check on Adam, and it seems that Adam is perfectly fine, like there is no internal damage or whichever. So we end up by the end of this having Carlos getting lifted above everyone's shoulder, and that's how the episode ends. We had Adam going on and stating that he knew that he could morph and be fine because Carlos was there all along, like he was on his side, and so he knew he would be perfectly fine. And so I was like, oh, that's nice. So I like these kind of team up episodes, but like as long as it's not like a huge crossover thing. Because man, when they have those huge crossover things, there's so many technical things that I have to get into. There's so much gadgetry and all the stuff that they use. But there are also some interesting crossovers that I think I can still go on and do. There is some interesting crossover stuff. Like Time Force had gone on to do some interesting crossovers with other seasons, or done crossovers with its show. So there was a lot of like stuff that I got to start to like find out or see with like 3-parters and stuff like that. So maybe I'll go on and possibly do those in the future. But I think I'm going to go on and try to also get out of here so I can put this video out. And so thank you all for listening to this. Thank you all for just humoring me on the point of me just consistently going on and reviewing Power Rangers seemingly almost every single day, with the exclusion of just certain times where I'm freaking just burnt, or I want to go on and focus on other projects or other things, or just have a life for once. So with that said, thank you for letting me go on and just be a part of your day. I really do appreciate it. So with that said, bye everybody. Bye everybody.